Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, Bonnie, so I think we're live now. We're starting
We
to see
are.
our beautiful, enlightened ladies joining this wonderful session that we have planned, and which, by the way, everybody that is climbing up on here on this webinar, all of you are part of this thing that Bonnie and I are doing. So Bonnie and I are kind of like we're like the vehicles, we're like the facilitators, but this is really being generated by all of you. And I think that probably in anticipation of romance and sexuality, everybody's probably been having some insights around romance and sexuality. I know I have, Bonnie.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And you are totally correct that, it's just the two of us having a conversation if we didn't have everybody else here. So we're very excited to have you all here.
So I'm seeing more lovely ladies joining us, and that's wonderful. We have about a minute before we get started. Those of you that have joined us in the past know that we start on time, and it's 11:30, so we're going.
That is for sure.
Okay, so this is Lily talking, and we are here to welcome you. Bonnie and I would like to give you a warm embrace and welcome to our fourth session of the pilot series, which is called Owning Your Romance and Sexuality. And again, this is the fourth of 4 sessions that we had so far. And we are going to be announcing a very surprise session, so make sure that you stay tuned and connected until the very end, because we are going to be doing a surprise announcement. Make sure that you visit our website and look at resources for all of the 4 webinars, including this one that we have done. We have put in a list of resources. These webinars really only cover very superficially the context of the conversation, but for more information, please do visit our website, and you'll get that information later on, but it's www.8thchakra.com. You'll see all kinds of books that Bonnie and I have read in the past, and that I have tried to, and that we have both recommending, and that we're in love with and we want to share with you. So how this is going to go, we're going to be doing a 15 minutes on the conversation itself, setting it up, the context, giving you everybody an idea of what we're going to be establishing the conversation around. That's only going to be about 15 minutes. And then we're going to go into a 20-minute section for coaching, and then we're going to do, and we're going to be answering questions, etc. And then 20 minutes, we're going to be working on moving into the reading, the group reading that we're going to do, which is going to include Akashic Records reading as well as Theta healing. And for those of you that are not familiar with Akashic Record reading and Theta healing, we've covered that in the past, and if you missed it, that's okay. You can listen to our recordings, and you can also go on our website, because we have a lot of well, maybe not a lot of information, but enough information for you to understand what we're doing and where we're going with Akashic Records reading and with Theta healing. And again, the resources are there for you to explore these topics on your own. Okay, Bonnie, let's go on to our intention.
Yes. So we like to have an intention every time we do one of these sessions. Today our intention is to reclaim our sense of romance and sexuality through self-love and self-worth, remembering that when we satisfy ourselves, we teach other people how to satisfy us. And we are big proponents of setting our intention and having you set your intention as well. And we want to remind you that we're having a conversation, that neither Lily nor I are experts in any of this, that we're going through the same kinds of things that you are. And so we have set our individual intention as well as the group intention. And so we want to encourage you to take just a moment and think about what you would like to get out of this, since that paves the way for what you will get out of it. And then I want to remind you just for a moment that we have the workbook that you all can write down questions if you have them as we're going along, and comments that you want to make. And we want to once again encourage you to participate in the conversation that we're going to be having when we open up the lines, because we really want you all to participate in this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. One last thing that I'd like to say about the workbook is, and we're going to talk about a little bit more about that, but for those of you that maybe have not noticed the workbook or whatnot, it really is a way for you to begin to get into that place of what you want to intend out of the conversation that we're having, and be more specific in your life so that your life can be empowered by these conversations. All
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. And then if you don't have the workbook for some reason, you can go to the handouts section, and it is there, so you can download it there, so you will have it. And it's also on our website. Just let you
Yeah.
know that.
Yeah,
So,
and one last thing. I want to, sorry.
no.
One last thing. We are so appreciative of those of you that have participated in previous webinars by raising your hand and answering questions, because when we're done with this conversation piece, which is only going to be about another 12, 13 minutes, we're going to start giving you an opportunity to ask questions or to share something that you might want to get coached on, or something that you want answered. So make sure that you're writing down some notes while we're going along, so you don't forget when we open that up. All right.
Yay! Okay, so beliefs about romance and sexuality. Here's the stage I want to set for you guys, is that if by chance you thought that this was a webinar that was about us telling you how to find the love of your life, or how to fix the issue that you might have with your marriage, or be able to give you secrets about dating, this is not that. We are here to talk about our beliefs around romance and sexuality, and how they play their part in our life and get us what we want. So that's really where we're going with this.
Yeah. And, beliefs about romance and sexuality begin in our childhood. In fact, we buy into belief systems when we choose to be born on this planet. And so they really begin in childhood. And I don't know if some of you remember when you were little, if you used to sing that song that starts something like Mary and Michael sitting in a tree, Kissing. We have these little rhymes, and we're brought up believing or at least I was brought up, some of my beliefs from childhood are that when I was of age, that some Prince Charming in a white horse was going to come to the door. Literally, I was almost I believed this, that some handsome prince-looking guy was going to come on a white horse, knock on the door, and ask my mom and dad for my hand in marriage. And it was all this fairy tale-ish kind of stuff around it. And so we grew up with a set of beliefs like love at first sight, and we got to get Mr. Right, and that starts in our childhood. And then those belief systems that we bought into when we were born actually get reinforced by our parents, by our families, etc. So, Bonnie, I'm sure you have some belief systems and that you got in childhood. What were
Oh,
yours?
absolutely, for sure, because I had the same thing as you. I, started quote unquote dating. My mom used to carry the love note that I wrote around when I was old enough to start writing to the guy, "Dear Ted, I love you. You're the love of my life." So yeah, absolutely. And it took me a very long time to realize that that was just a belief system that was in place. And so we all have these ideas about what romance looks like, and sometimes we really let them lead us down the path where it's not really where we're supposed to be. We're just led by the romance of it. And, oh, it's so romantic, and oh, we're going to do this. And we're not necessarily saying that that isn't a great thing to have some romance in your life, but we want to make sure we understand the place of romance within our life.
Yeah, and I want to mention that this picture with the red umbrella, I'm dedicating that to one of my sisters who is with one of our participants. She loves pictures that are black and white with red splattered on them, and she also loves umbrellas, and you know who you are, you know who I'm talking to. And we do have this romanticized belief about how we're going to meet the one, and waiting for Mr. Right, and how maybe I'm going to go on a trip around. I recently was visiting my sister in Italy, and I actually had these thoughts about how, oh, maybe I'll meet the guy of my dreams kind of thing, and I catch myself in these kinds of belief systems. So, okay. So
yeah, absolutely. So our question to you is, what is your idea about romance? What are your beliefs about romance? What are your beliefs about sexuality and how that shows up for you? do you have some ideas around it that, well, now that I'm this certain age, sexuality looks like this, or now that I have been married or not married for some period of time, this is what romance looks like. So what are your beliefs around it? And I would encourage you to, once again, grab your workbook and write some notes down so we can have some additional conversations about this.
Yeah, and there's so many beliefs around sexuality and how we're impacted by it through motherhood, through pregnancy, again, through marriage, how many years we've been married. Our girlfriends might ask us, well, how many times a week do you do it? You know, and then we have these other thoughts around that the older we get, it's not going to happen. And I recently heard that somebody was sharing with me that actually we don't slow down as we age, and in fact in some of the retirement villages or retirement neighborhoods, it's actually one of the highest incidences of sexual activity. It's really, it's kind of crazy, because I always kind of thought, oh well, you know, it kind of slows down when you get older, but again, these are beliefs, and a belief system is not something that's true. It's just a thought that you have over and over again, and you get exposed to, and you buy into, and you believe that it's true.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I really love these pictures here that, you know, kind of give this idea that this is what sexuality is like. And what's kind of interesting about Lily and I is that we come from two different perspectives. I have been married for 27 years, and when we started talking about this subject, I said, you know, I have to be honest that there's times that I think there's something wrong with me because I've been married for 27 years. And you remember how you responded, Lily?
Yeah, I said it. I think something's wrong with me because I've been divorced twice, you know. So no matter where we are in our life, in the status of a romantic or sexual relationship, there's something that we're saying to ourselves about ourselves. And that's where we want to go with this, is that what are you saying about yourself in all of this? So before we move into that, there's also the influences, because aside from how we've been raised, etc., there's also the cultural differences, the movies. I mean, I go on Netflix every once in a while. I don't own a television, so I go on Netflix every once in a while to catch a movie. And I tell you, I have started watching so many romantic movies, and they're all so predictable, and they're all so the same, and they're all so full of fantasy, and they're also full of, you know, stuff that's not even real. But we're influenced by it. You know, we think that what we see in the movies or what we see in the advertising or the romance novels. Oh my goodness! I mean, yeah, I'd love to curl up every once in a while with a romance novel where I could get just kind of lost in that, you know, that big muscular chest of that, you know, beautiful, handsome man that's going to sweep me off my feet. I mean, who doesn't like to get carried away that way sometimes? But it's not reality necessarily, or what empowers us to be and step into owning who we are as a romantic and a sexual being, spirit on this plane. So
Absolutely. And I just want to say, I love this picture of the girl reading the book as she's being swept away. It is just classic. Like, okay, what are we supposed to do next? All right, now you're supposed to sweep me off my feet. So
right,
it's
yeah,
a
it's
lovely
like a
thing there.
script, yeah. So I don't know if any of you watched the movie with Jerry Maguire. I forget the actress's name. She's become really famous now. But the Jerry Maguire movie, that's what it was called, Jerry Maguire. Several years, I was like over a decade ago, and there was a line in there where they're in an elevator and she says to him, "You complete me." And that phrase has kind of infiltrated through society, where people really feel like, oh my God, I have to have someone that's going to complete who I am. And to be empowered, what we're wanting to draw your attention, and most of you already know this. I mean, we know this intrinsically, but sometimes it takes like a little nudging for us to actually realize it in our lives through experience, that we are whole and complete by ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't need someone to complete us. That's that kind of thought. I've always said that that line, "you complete me," really messed up a lot of people.
I love that. I love that.
Okay, so other influences are also around spirituality and soulmate, the soulmate conversation. How many of us really yearn to connect with our soulmate, or to be in that really loving relationship that is spiritual? And when we say spiritual, you know, we're all also, of course, talking about religion, and there's a different ways that from our spirituality practices that we have systems around belief. You know, or am I going to meet my soulmate? No one else will do. If it's not my soulmate, I'd rather be alone. I've actually confessed that I've heard myself say that to myself. If it's not my soulmate, I'd rather be alone.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, even me having been married, at some point I said, oh, he must be my soulmate. I mean, he must be, because he leaves his socks on the floor, and I'm not so annoyed by it. So
Yeah.
what's kind of interesting is this cultural and spiritual influence affects how we date. And we have a very modern picture here of them, you know, dating online. But it's, you know, what are the rules for dating? Oh, he has to contact me, or I have to let him do this first. And we have all of these rules around how we date and what dating looks like. Lily, you probably have something to say on the dating scene.
Yeah,
Are we
right.
good?
Yeah, my last relationship ended about 3 years ago, and since then I've been kind of on and off. And yeah, I did the Tinder thing and all of that, and I'm sure everybody that's on this call has at some point, or maybe not, but has at some point done some online dating. And it's just an interesting world out there. And I think what we want to point out to you is that the way that the belief systems that we have and that we have bought into, it is how we date. It's also how we marry and how we divorce. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But yeah, the whole dating scene is incredible. What is happening in our society about that, and like you said, Bonnie, the rules and all of that we create, and it's all made up by us.
Yeah, and it's, you know, how we do marriage, right? Are we going into marriage blindly, which I find really interesting, because going into marriage blindly can actually mean a good thing or a bad thing. We're going in and we're not having any preconceived notions, is an idea of going into marriage blindly, like the man and woman who are here. Are we noticing things that we don't need to notice? And then I really love the idea of just bringing a little attention to our definition of marriage. And we're not trying to, you know, head down a political path. We're just noticing, you know, what does marriage look like, and how does how I was raised affect what I think about marriage and what pictures of marriage are. So it's
Yeah, and gender differences and sexual preferences and all of that. And at the end of the day, society is dictating all of this, and we're, as a humanity, let's say as a human race, we're moving into a dimension in which none of those things really matter. Those external appearances and circumstances don't really matter as much as what is the true love that I'm here to experience, what is being reflected of me in the other person.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have how we view divorce.
Yeah, and this is another area that can be so sabotaging to ourselves, because again, I've been divorced twice, and through both divorces, I've had to really look at myself and say, what am I saying about myself through this? Am I considering myself a victim? Am I considering myself a failure? How are my children being affected? Am I blaming my spouse? All these things are the things that then set us up for what's going to come next. What is the next partner that we're going to attract or not attract? And it's all based on the ideas and the belief systems that we choose to buy into and that we choose to make our own as if they are the truth. And it's interesting that this morning I had, Bonnie and I, of course, we prepare for this webinar. We want it to be so impactful and powerful for all of our participants. And this morning I woke up to an announcement from the Oprah and Deepak meditation series. Some of you may have done it. It's called they do a meditation every day for 21 days. And the one that they're doing now is called Creating Peace from the Inside Out, the Power of Connection. And today's theme was called Ideal Relationships and Where They Come From. And the centering thought for the day is, my relationships begin in here, with love and caring for myself. Mm-hmm. And for those of you that might be interested in taking a look at the Oprah and Deepak meditations, they are really cool. They're like 10 to 15-minute daily meditations, and they're awesome. We've got a link on our resources page so that you guys can check it out.
Yeah, I think self-care is really what we're talking about. when we peel everything away, we get down to how are we taking care of ourselves? How are we taking care of ourselves when we're dating, when we're married, when we're going through an issue or a problem, and how are we taking care of ourselves when we divorce? That we really want to make sure we pay attention to nurturing ourselves, and that's really what we're saying here.
Yeah, the self-care the self-care is so important because as you're moving through challenges, and if maybe some of you who may have worked on the workbook or and isolated a challenge in your relationship with romance and sexuality, it's important to be able to point out that those challenges are coming to you possibly from the context of a belief system. So as you begin to isolate those belief systems, then you can replace those belief systems with other belief systems that are empowering to you. We're not going to ever get rid of belief systems. That's part of what it is to be human. And so let's choose belief systems that empower us. And self-care, the belief system that in order for me to be well and to be happy and succeed in a relationship, it starts with me, and it starts with me taking care of me. That's really, really important, and trust me, that has helped me so much going through the divorces that I have gone through. And even in romancing myself, because I go out and buy flowers for myself on a weekly basis, you know, because I'm not dating anyone right now, but that doesn't mean I have to live without flowers.
True. Very true. And this whole idea of self-love is so important. I get this message on a regular basis. I did a webinar with a bunch of women about how to empower women, and in the Akashic Records, what they said is we really need to realize that we are magnificent, that we are beings that are so capable of love, and we need to focus on that and remember that, you know, we love ourselves first, and then we are in a position to love other people. And so I really love this slide, and now I'll do what's best for me. I think it's a perfect lead-in.
Yeah, and so that's our segue to open up the floor for you beautiful ladies to raise your hands and ask us a question, or to make a comment or share a challenge that you might be having that we can then provide some little coaching. And so that you know, we really appreciate those of you that have jumped right in there and given us those questions, because that allows us to provide the coaching that, by the way, if you're on this call, that means that you are, the spirit of who you are is really the spirit of this group. And so any question that you ask or any challenge that you want to share is probably most likely being shared by everyone on the group. And so whatever we respond to you is going to be very beneficial for the entire group.
Yeah, so we want to encourage you to raise your hand. I don't know if we even told people that. Did we tell people how to participate? That you just go and you raise your hand so that we can click on you and open up your mic and we can actually have a conversation. If you also can ask a question through the question box, and every once in a while we have someone who texts us or sends us an email because they're having challenges on connecting on the webinar. So would love to do that.
I actually have someone texting me right now that is, I think it's the same gal that, well, no, it's somebody different that is on a call but has not been able to, that we don't see her as a participant. So she wants us to, she's challenged with having gone through a very difficult divorce and is having a hard time forgiving the whole situation. And let me see. Yeah, and so she wants to know how can she recover from that, and how can she find her way back to feeling good about herself. So that's a really great question, and I experienced that myself, and I think most of us that are on this call, if you've had a breaking up relationship, or it doesn't have to be a divorce, but if you've broken up from a relationship, or especially if you were not the one that made the decision to break up, it can leave us feeling very disempowered and asking ourselves questions. Am I good enough? Did I do something wrong? What could I have done better? And really questioning our own self-worth and our own ability to succeed in a relationship. And what I think is really valuable to look at is that breaking up with someone, again, if you're in the belief system that there's only one perfect person for you, that there's only that one person that you fell in love with, if you have that belief system, of course you're going to be disempowered if we break up from that person, because then we're left feeling like, oh, there's going to be no one else for me. But the belief system that would really empower us in a situation like that is to understand and know that in our lifetime we're going to move through lots and lots of relationships. Not all of them are going to be romantic, not all of them are going to be sexual, not all of them are going to be with a marriage or et cetera, with a partner like that, but every relationship is a reflection of who we are and something that our spirit needs to learn. And so I would recommend to you to look in the mirror and say, wow, I'm so beautiful, I'm so loved, and what is the lesson that I want to learn here? What does my soul need to learn? What does my spirit really want to get out of this? And then as you begin to look at what is here for me, what is the lesson for me, then you can begin to depersonalize it from the human standpoint and understand that everything is in order and that the relationship had a beautiful, beautiful objective and a beautiful purpose to it, and that purpose may have come to a conclusion, but the lessons of it will stay with you forever and ever. And to the degree that you're able to understand and really learn what that lesson was and not be in denial about it, then that's how we can get to move forward and open our heart and open our space to be in another loving relationship in the future. And then the last thing, because I know, Bonnie, you might have some things to say about that, but the last thing that I want to say about that is that oftentimes when we're in a place where we haven't completely forgiven that whatever happened, it kind of puts a little bit of a stint in our heart. It closes our heart down. So being able to forgive and release that, experience the suffering and the pain of it, yes, because it is painful. Be with that sadness, be with that pain. Don't let it overcome you, but rather move into a place of forgiveness, and then that will allow your heart to open up again.
Yeah, I think you absolutely said it correctly. And one of the things that I want to take a moment to talk about is this idea that everything happens exactly as it's supposed to happen, that prior to us coming into this lifetime, we actually make agreements, contracts with people to have certain lessons in this lifetime, and that includes the relationships that you have had that have been successful and the ones that haven't been successful in terms of a human experience. Even the ones that haven't been successful have had a purpose. There was a reason why you wanted to be in that relationship. There was something that you wanted to experience. And I have a very dear friend who had a really ugly, ugly divorce, and she has not yet forgiven her husband for a very, very long list of things that he did, and I'm sure he has his list as well. And one of the things that I found really interesting was that when I went back and looked in her Akashic records, I took the time to help her understand this, is that the two of them have had many, many lives together where they had really ugly breakups. There was times when he killed her and there were times when she killed him, and just, I mean, it was like all sorts of stuff wound up and wrapped around each other. And the message that I want everybody to hear is that the message that they gave her was that you're going to continue to do this dance and have this experience until you come out of the relationship and look at it and say, whoa, that relationship was really messed up, but look at all of the things that I learned. And you discover a way that you can be grateful for the experience, that you can be thankful that you had that experience. It might have been the most painful experience you ever had in your life, but if you can go in and say, wow, I really learned a lot about myself. I discovered that, it's important that he picks up his socks, and it's important that he is faithful, and it's important for all the list of things that you understand there's experiences, and you're willing to appreciate them and say, wow, I'm so grateful for them. Because as soon as you can be grateful and step into that space, the anger and the frustration and everything that you're holding on to no longer has a place to hold. It's like it just becomes a slippery slope, and you can suddenly go,
Mhm.
wow, that was a nice place to be.
Mhm. Very good, very good. Okay, so we're open to some other questions. I'm not seeing any hands being raised right now. So for those of you that are on the call, this is your opportunity to receive some insight. And of course, we're not going to identify who you are because this is all very confidential. So um, keep in mind some of the conversation that we've had, maybe areas in your life that you have some questions in regards to your relationships with men or women. And let's see if we have another question.
Interesting. I mean, I'm thinking it's probably, at least in my case, a sugar hangover from Halloween last night, right? That we're all still a little bit zombie-like and wondering.
Okay.
There we go. We actually have a question.
A question.
What are some ideas you have to change limiting beliefs once you have identified them?
That's a great question.
It is indeed a great question.
Yeah, and so one of the first things that we want to do is, the hardest part, I think, actually is to identify what those limiting beliefs are. And sometimes we don't know if a belief system limits us or not. And I say if it in any way makes you uncomfortable, or if it in any way gets to be in the way as an obstacle to your total bliss and happiness, then it's a limiting belief. Because beliefs that aren't limiting make you happy. And so that's one way to check in on that. So once you've identified and isolated those limiting beliefs, for example, the limiting belief of love at first sight. In other words, we seek for that love at first sight. We fantasize about it. We think that's the way to go. Oh, it was love at first sight. And we put so much energy into that. But it's a limiting belief because not all relationships that are successful are going to start off with a love at first sight kind of environment. And so by thinking that love at first sight is necessary, it's limiting you from considering relationships. I'm moving through that right now with a gentleman that I dated a long time ago that's kind of back in my life, and he's sending me cards and inviting me on getaways and all of this, and I'm thinking to myself, oh gosh, well, there's something that's missing for me, and in having this conversation, I'm identifying that I didn't have love at first sight with him, and I have chemistry with him, I have a lot of things going on with him, but I didn't have love at first sight, and I'm discarding him because no love at first sight. Wow, I just got present to that. Thanks to all of you, and thanks for this question.
There you go.
So the way to change that limiting belief is, again, first identifying it, and then second, ask myself, what do I want out of a relationship? And then when I have a vision of that relationship, and what I'm really looking for is someone that I can share my experiences with, someone that will listen to me and that I can listen to, someone where I can have conversations with, someone that can be there for me and me be there for them, someone that isn't needy of me and that I don't have to be needy of. So those are some of the things. So now I'm going to create a belief around that. So what I'm looking for is the belief system of being able to be in a successful relationship with someone where I have an easy communication with someone that I have chemistry with. Now I can start replacing the belief of love at first sight being necessary with, no, what I'm interested in is communication. I'm interested in a synergy. I'm interested in an exchange of energy. And then I can start changing that belief to, wow, that's what I'm looking for. I believe I can find someone that I can have chemistry with, that I can have easy communication with. That's my belief system, and I will find that person. So I'm going to give this guy a chance because I have all those things with him.
There you go. I also think once you understand that you have a limiting belief, that you can actually do some of the work around, where did that come from? You know, is it really mine? Do I really own it? Or in my case, I had a number of beliefs about marriage based on my mother. And so I started looking at some of my belief systems that I had around what marriage looks like he is supposed to take care of me. And when I really did the work around that, I realized, oh, all those times my mother had that statement that she would throw out like, well, you know, it's your father's job to take care of me. And she wasn't even saying, now, Bonnie, listen, this is what you need to know. But I absorbed it in the same way. So once you have an idea of something that is limiting you, if you go back and do the work to see where that came from, you can start to work on it and really look at it like, is this really mine? Do I really believe that? And if I do really believe that, if I do believe that my husband is supposed to be taking care of me, then I want to make that clear, and I want to step into the space of being honest with him where I can say, you know, I really think it's important that you take care of me, and we can have a conversation around it. So sometimes just doing the work to see where that came from is enough to get you started on creating a new belief system and deciding what you really want to have in a relationship.
Yeah, very good, very good. We have time for one more quick question. So, oh, here's a question about, I've been married for 13 years and I've kind of lost my passion, and both my husband and I have lost my passion is what she's saying. And how do we spark that back up? I think that's a great question. We move through that a lot. Bonnie, you've been married. You are married. 20, how many years was it? You said
27 years, yeah.
How do you keep the spark going? And the only thing I want to say about it is relationships change. And,
Absolutely.
you know, so go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that is something that my husband and I talk about on a regular basis. And when our kids went off to college, it took us a month or so to realize we didn't have children around the house. And then it's just acknowledging it to each other. And once again, it is doing the work of what do you want your relationship to look like, and are you willing to have a conversation? So if you really want to be able to date, then you say to your husband, you know what, I think it's really important that we go on a date once a month, once a week, whatever it is, and you set that up and you're willing to do the work behind it, because it's really easy to say, you need to take me out on a date more often, and it's a lot more difficult to say, we need to date. How can we do that? Let's look at our schedule and find a time. So it's really about a continuing conversation.
Yeah, and keeping in mind that relationships do change. And again, going back to what is the belief system that we have about marriage after 13 years in this example, am I expected to think that after 13 years I'm going to have the same kind of passion that I had or the same kind of attraction that I had with my husband when we were dating? No. Our relationships move through tides and waves, and we go in and out. And so it's important to understand, isolate what the belief system that you have around this, and then replace it with something that really is going to empower you to aim at having the kind of relationship that is going to honor you and honor the person that you're with. That's really, really important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree completely.
Okay.
So we're ready to move into group reading and healing.
Yes. Okay. So so in this part of the program, we're going to be doing, we're going to be opening up the Akashic records, and actually the records are already open. So if everybody can just give Bonnie and I just a moment for us to get tuned into the records, and then we're going to start describing what the messages are. And these messages are really coming from the collective Akashic records of everyone that is on this call, and including those that are listening to the recording, because there's a whole set of other participants that are not able to be here on the call live, but that are going to be listening to the recording later. And this Akashic record reading also applies to you, of course, as well as the Theta session. And I want to remind everyone that please, if you want more information about either Akashic records reading or the Theta, please visit our website, and there's resources there as well as information. So Bonnie, let's you and I take a moment, and then we'll move into this very important messages for our ladies.
Absolutely. So what I would like to talk about today is this idea that of us being kind to ourselves, of being generous to ourselves and putting ourselves first. They are really telling me that there is a very definite vibe here, and they're giving me the idea that it is coming from the idea that most of us on this phone call would label ourselves as healers or somehow in the healing arts practice. And that might be someone who is a nurse who is not necessarily spiritual, or it could be somebody who is a very spiritual healer. But that we have this belief system that we can't put ourselves first, that we have to sacrifice ourselves, that we have to put other people before us, because if we don't do that, then we're not really being true to who we are. And that idea is very much of a myth. And we are here to know that we are powerful beings. That's the reason why we came here. And we innately know this. Our soul knows this, our essence knows this. We have known this since we have come into the planet. But speaking of the piece about the stuff that we have taken on, the beliefs that we have taken on, we have taken on these beliefs, and the analogy that they're giving me is that we are putting on layers and layers of clothing. And it's like, when we were a child and we learned that we weren't supposed to hit other people. We put on a layer of clothing because somehow we were shamed into thinking, we did wrong. Or when we did something else, we said something mean to somebody that we just said out of a reaction, and we were reprimanded for it, that we put on another layer of clothing. And so we have these many layers of clothing that we're wearing, and it is like keeping us from being who we really are, and keeping us from understanding that we are magnificent beings, that we are here to share our gifts, to bring understanding to other people about what amazing beings we all are. And when we can release this shame and this disregard and this, it's like we put ourselves down and think that we're not good enough. When we can let those things go, we can start to step into who we really are and understand that we really are magnificent beings, and we can take for ourselves what we need for ourselves. So we can replenish ourselves, and we can remind ourselves of who we are, and we can be there for other people. That it's not an either or, that if you give to other people that you're bad, or if you take for yourself that you're bad, that it's that we can do all of it and be exactly who we are, which is magnificent beings.
That's very lovely, Bonnie. That's very lovely. And I'm so tuned into this group, and I'm actually present to everybody's hearts. And the heart is where relationships, the heart chakra is the chakra, the energy center in our bodies that is in charge of, let's put it that way, for giving and receiving love and how we do relationships. And that's about relationships in all our lives, not just those that are romantic and sexual. And what the masters, teachers, and loved ones of this group want you to know, want all of us to know, is that, and I just got to pause for a second, because even before we started all of it, when Bonnie and I first opened the records, I was present to a tremendous amount of rainbow light. The rainbow light, of course, covers all the spectrums of the rainbow colors and the prime colors, etc. And there's a lot of love associated with rainbow. It's also a very in the future kind of where humanity is headed in terms of where our love is going. And what they want us to know is that we have all chosen to be on this planet at this very moment because of the energy and the dynamics of the light that is moving through the planet at this time. Mother Earth is moving through a lot of transformation. Part of that transformation is what we as the human beings that inhabit here and that actually, let's say, received the code to be here in our lifetime, because there are souls or spirits that are waiting to receive the opportunity to be born. And so having been born on this plane in this time and in this dimension at this moment is a huge, huge gift. And so that by itself gives us the, let's say, the right. They're saying that's not exactly the right word, but it gives us the opportunity and almost the birthright. Yeah, they're saying birthright is what there is here. It's by virtue of our birth here, we are all deserving of every bit of love, receiving and giving. And for most of us that are in this group, we are at some point experience questions about whether or not being in a relationship is appropriate or not. And some of us may feel that I'm better off being single, or I'm better off being alone, or I'm better off just not paying attention to what's going on in my marriage. I'm happier if I just let him watch television all day long, or if I, let him do whatever he wants and I'll go do my thing and living my own life. And some of us may be on the other spectrum, which is being in a relationship, seeking a relationship, wondering when is he going to show up? I'm doing everything right. I'm making my list. I'm doing my objectives. I have my vision. I'm going out there. I'm getting exposed. I'm going online to date. I'm meeting people, etc. And still he doesn't show up. And so there's a variety of situations that any of us may be in. But whatever that situation that we're in, what they're saying is that the most important thing for us that we can do at the moment is to take the attention away from what's going on out there and bring the attention to what's going on with us. Because relationships actually are a way for us to learn something about ourselves. It's always, no matter what, it could be your son, your daughter, your mother, your father, your sister, your aunt, your uncle, your husband, your boyfriend, your fiance, whoever it is, your boss, your teacher, whoever is in your life that is in some way not pleasing you or putting you in a situation where you're doubting yourself in any way. It's important for you to look in the mirror and say, what is this reflecting? What is this person reflecting back to me? And there's no relationship, they're saying there's no relationship that is more powerful than the relationship that you enter into through an agreement of a romantic or a sexual relationship, because in a romantic and sexual relationship, you put forth so much energy. We put forth all of ourselves. We give all of ourselves, unless we're not, because for many of us, we hold back in the giving of our love. And for many of us, we hold back even in the receiving of our love. So it's important to catch ourselves and say, oh, I'm not allowing that love in, or, oh, I'm not allowing myself to fully love. And certainly this is what they're wanting us to pay attention to, is to first remember that every relationship in our life, but especially the romantic and sexual relationships, because we intertwine our energy so much in a relationship like that, that it's important for us to understand and be aware that there is an energy exchange going on, and we need to allow ourselves to give and receive, because if we give our love fully and it is not returned, that is not for us to judge ourselves like we deserved it or we didn't deserve it. It's more to just ask, what is the lesson here? I'm giving myself fully and I'm not receiving it in return. Okay, so there may be a lesson there for us to look at inside of that, and it may be that our soul is asking for a lesson in how to love unconditionally without receiving it. We have sometimes a belief that in order to give love, we have to receive it, or to receive love, we have to give it. But what if the lesson that our soul wants to learn is that I just want to give love, give love, give love. It doesn't matter if I receive it or not. It doesn't matter if I receive it or not. And so every situation is different, and it's important for us to take a step back and not judge whatever is going on, but rather to see what is being reflected back to me that is important for me to see about myself. So they're asking me to move into a theta session for all of us. And so what we're going to do now is go into the theta part of this, where I'm present to this incredible, it's like a pulling, and I'm feeling it from everyone on this call, like this pulling to be okay with who I am, just the way of who I am, regardless of who I am. In other words, it's this groundedness about that we judge ourselves, and we look in the mirror and we judge ourselves. Are we pretty enough? Are we lovable enough? Are we smart enough? Or and all of that. And so what they're wanting us to do is to do a healing around that for all of us, so that we receive the program of unconditional love of self. So for those of you that may not have been on a call before, please know that as we're downloading this program, which does come from Source, from Mother, Father, God, Creator of all that is perfect, it will not be downloaded to you if you do not receive it. You do have to agree to receive it. So silently in your head, agree to receive it or agree not to receive it, and that is fine. It won't be downloaded for you. But the program here is to displace a program where we are self-judging ourselves in a critical manner or in a way that doesn't empower us, with the program of perfect unconditional love for self from Mother, Father, God, Creator of all that is. So if you could all close your eyes if you don't have them closed right now, and preferably have your feet flat on the floor and your palms facing up on your lap. And make sure that your legs are not crossed, because this is a sign of fully being able to receive. And so we ask and command for the program in God's perfect view of self-love, self-acceptance, and releasing all judgment. And for this program to be downloaded into all the aspects of who we are, from a genetic standpoint, for it to be downloaded into our DNA, for it to be downloaded into our physical realm, into our mental realm, into our emotional realm, and for it to be resolved on the history level. If any of us have any kind of history with not loving ourselves or wherever that came from, we ask that that be resolved and cleared and released from our DNA, from our energy systems, so that we may receive the belief system, the truth of who we are as beautiful, complete beings, fully capable of not only loving ourselves unconditionally, but loving all of humanity unconditionally, without judgment, with a pure heart as God intended for us to love in this realm and in our spiritual evolution, and in who we are as evolving beings who are contributing to humanity. And that is why we're here. We're here on this plane to contribute to humanity, and it starts with contributing to ourselves, the self-love and self-care and forgiveness that we deserve as an individual. So everybody take a deep breath and just receive that. I'm seeing now the rainbow colors. They're just huge. I've been watching them and feeling them all around from the beginning of this call, and I'm seeing them now, in fact, individually being downloaded to all of you that are accepting this download. There's a lot of rainbow energy. I'm feeling the electricity moving through my body, as I normally do when these downloads are happening. I'm seeing just beautiful violet colors, and you know, violet is a color of pure love beyond what we know it to be as humans. We tend to think of love in our dimension. We tend to think of it in red colors because it's associated with the heart, but actually the heart chakra is an emerald green color. And so I'm seeing this very strong emerald green, but it's also it's got violet tones to it, very strong violet, purplish tones to it. And now I'm seeing this gigantic, it's like a picture of a heart, and I'm like getting that this is the representation of the heart chakra of everyone on this call. And again, this also includes those of you that are listening to the recording, because you're also benefiting from this download. And I'm seeing this beautiful heart that has 3 flames in it. I'm seeing like the mother feminine flame. It's a very beautiful pink, and I'm feeling the electricity. Some of you may be feeling something, some of you may not, and that's okay. This download is happening if you're accepting it. I'm seeing these 3 flames inside this heart. The flame, it's a feminine flame to it, which feels it's like a soft pink, but it's not pastel-y. It's more like a vibrant pink. but it is soft. I don't know how to describe a combination of soft and vibrant. And then there's a blue flame, which is more like a cobalt blue flame, and they're kind of intertwining together. And this represents, I'm being told, this represents the feminine and masculine qualities that exist within our energy field and how we each can embrace the feminine aspect of who we are. Some of us have embraced for too long a masculine aspect in order to succeed in this masculine-driven world, but now it's time for us to allow the feminine energy to move in and harmonize with the masculine aspect. Both these energies are very necessary for us. Both of them are necessary for us to be able to give and to receive love and to allow ourselves to be nurtured and to allow ourselves to nurture another. And both of these flames are very, very important. But I'm also seeing a third flame, which is more golden in color, and this is really being downloaded through this rainbow energy that has an emphasis on emerald green and violet flame color. And also I'm seeing like a golden light, and the gold light feels more like little sparklies that is moving down through the crown chakra of all of us on this call and that are listening to this recording, and that's all kind of combining into the heart center for us to be able to receive this. And that I'm seeing it also spread out through all our energy systems, and including the very physical and ethereal DNA configuration of who we are and where we're stepping into, each one of us, in our spiritual evolution and in our evolution as sexual and romantic beings on this planet. Because the romantic and sexuality, the romance and sexuality of who we are is a very important aspect of us being able to create what there is to create on this planet in terms of peace and love for all, and for it to be carried through the next generations that are coming through on this plane. So if everybody could take a deep breath. Wow. And we are complete. And the masters, teachers, and loved ones of this group want you to know that you are all loved, and they're smiling upon us. Like, I almost see them like as an audience, like they're witnessing this transformation that we're moving through right now, and they're asking us all to take some quiet time today to reflect and to truly look in our hearts and create who we are moving forward as a romantic and sexual being, as a loving being, as unconditionally loving ourselves, and to continue to create powerful, loving belief systems around this topic, because it is very needed on our earth. And they're wanting us all to know that they're very happy and very satisfied that we're here and taking all this in. Okay, we are complete.
Excellent.
Wow.
I don't know if anybody else feels this way, but I think you are mostly just talking to me. So.
I felt like I was mostly talking to me.
I think everybody probably feels that way. Thank you very much, Lily. That was awesome. So it's always like, how exactly do you transition? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time articulating too, Bonnie.
Okay, so what we're going to do, we want to take just a moment to tell you all that we are going to be doing an extra session. We originally said that we were going to have 4 sessions, and as Lily and I were talking about this, we noticed that we are consistently getting questions about purpose. People ask us when they're doing sessions with us, the most often asked question is, what's my purpose? What am I here to do? Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Why do I feel like I'm off track? All of those kinds of things. And so we knew that we wanted to do an extra session to thank you all for participating in this, and so we are going to be doing that on Tuesday, November 22nd at 11:30 a.m. It is called Defining My Purpose, and I want to take a moment to have you note that it is not in 2 weeks, that it is actually in 3 weeks, and that is the Tuesday of Thanksgiving. that we have it planned, and Lily and I both have a lot of things going on, but we wanted to make sure that we got this in before the holidays and everybody started going their separate ways. We are not going to be doing sessions in December. We are going to be transitioning this program into something new and something fun and something different. We will definitely be talking to you about that as we go along, but we will be back in January. Is there something you want to add, Lily, to that?
Yeah, I want to thank everybody again for any time that you've sent us feedback on the other webinars, and we just love getting all that feedback because it does help us to create better programming, and it encourages us on what is needed out there. So please do continue to do that. We love, for those of you that have done it, thank you so much for doing that. And with the new programs that we're going to be doing, there are different formats that we're looking at. We're looking and very interested in doing some live sessions in person locally in local communities. And then, of course, we're going to be doing a retreat next year, which we will announce to you. And we want to continue these conversations because the pilot session served as exactly that, a pilot to kind of launch the conversations. Each of the topics that we've covered in these last 4 sessions are going to become a circle in and of themselves. So you might be interested in doing more work on romance and sexuality, but some of us might be more interested in doing more work around the chakra system and etc. So we're going to be creating circles that you can then join that are going to go really in deep on all these topics, because this pilot was really to cover everything very superficially. So keep your eyes pegged on Enlightened Lady Circle Facebook page, because we'll be making announcements on there, as well as sending you some announcements via email if we have your email address.
Absolutely. Thank you all so very much for your time and your attention. We have appreciated every second that you have given us.
Yes, absolutely. Have a beautiful afternoon and rest of the week, and we love you all.